Let us discuss passage number 3 of the paper. This passage talks about human rights, which are the basis on which civil society moves towards an advanced state of social development. So basically, the author is trying to tell us that human rights are important for social development. At every juncture, the preservation and protection of human rights is now a prime concern of modern society. With the passage of time, new rights have also been included in the widening scope of human rights so as to ensure justice and personal freedom. So what kind of rights have been included? The author is particularly talking about a set of consumer rights, which are a strong contender for inclusion within the scope of human rights. Actually, there is no dichotomy between citizens and consumers, he says, since consumers as members of civil society have obligations and responsibilities besides having a set of rights, just as the citizens have. Who is a consumer? Irrespective of who or where we are all consumers. More and more, what is defining consumers is the way they consume. The conflict of interest between consumers and the business organizations have forced the framing of consumer rights and laws. So what really brought about the idea of consumer rights is given here: the conflict of interest between consumers and the business organizations. So with consumer rights coming into picture, constant efforts are on to protect the interest of both buyers and sellers with the help of a legal system which has evolved as a result of consumer movement. The movement has gained momentum in India during the last few years, and today it is a force to reckon with. Thus, it is the right time to recognize and accept the hypothesis that consumer rights fall within the purview of human rights. The question here says, on the basis of the passage, consider the following statements. The legal system gives preference to consumer rights over human rights. Consumer rights aim to work in favor of both consumers as well as sellers. Well, the second statement you can quickly mark, because this is what we just read, that consumer rights aim to work in favor of both consumer as well as sellers. We also marked it here. Constant efforts are on to protect the interest of both buyers and sellers. So the idea of bringing in consumer rights is not just for the consumers but also for the buyers, for the sellers. So both buyers and sellers, the consumer rights aim to protect the interest of both of them, which is what is given in this statement: aim to work in favor of both consumers as well as sellers. The legal system gives preference to consumer rights over human rights. Well, this is nowhere given in the passage. The passage only suggests that consumer rights are a strong contender for inclusion within the scope of human rights, and nowhere in the passage it has been said that this is more important than human rights. In fact, this is something that is a part of human rights. So we cannot say that consumer rights are given more preference over human rights. So this is definitely incorrect. So our answer will be option B. The second question asks you that what is the reason behind the agreement between citizens and consumers? The harmony between citizen and consumer is because of both have a set of rights. Consumer rights are a strong contender for inclusion within the scope of human rights. Both hold a right and obligation attached to their rights. So we have to tell what is the reason that there is a harmony between citizen and consumer. Let us go back to our second paragraph, it says there is no dichotomy between citizen and consumers. Reason: since consumers as members of civil society have obligations and responsibilities besides having a set of rights. So this is very clearly given here, and as per this we can say that statement 1 is correct, both have a set of rights, and statement 3 is also correct, both hold a right and an obligation attached to their rights. So there is a set of rights and both of them have an obligation attached to their rights. And if you look at statement 2, it says consumer rights are a strong contender for inclusion within the scope of human rights. But is this the reason that there is a harmony between citizen and consumers? No. This particular option is a very general statement. This is not related to this statement given here in the question. Therefore, the answer will be option C. Which of the following statements cannot be concluded with reference to the topic of consumer rights in the passage? Consumer rights should be seen at par with human rights. Consumer rights should be treated as a part of human rights. The emerging awareness about consumer rights is a result of disagreement of interest between consumers and businesses. Well, I can very quickly eliminate option 1 because it says consumer rights should be seen at par with human rights. It is nowhere mentioned in the passage. In fact, what the passage says that consumer rights should be encompassed in human rights, which is given in statement 2, that it should be treated as a part. It should be a part of human rights, not at par with human rights. So statement 2 is correct, 1 is incorrect. The emerging awareness about consumer rights is a result of disagreement of interest between consumers and businesses. This we have already discussed here, that why this came into view. Here it is. The conflict of interest between consumers and the business organization have forced the framing of consumer rights and laws. So yes, there is a conflict between consumers and businesses. So, and the emerging awareness of consumer rights is a result of that only. It is very clearly given in the passage. So this is also a correct statement. As per this, option C is our answer.